Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is inquire. Let's take a moment to look at some definitions. The first way you'll hear inquire used is to mean to ask for information from another person. This, of course, could be a group of people, an organization, some type of entity as well. A second way you'll hear inquire used is to mean to investigate. So we might hear this word used in connection to police work and other sort of legal matters. You should know that the verb inquire is a regular verb. To make the progressive form of this verb, we're going to drop the E and add ing to form inquiring. The past tense and participle forms of this verb can be made by just adding the letter D, since this verb already ends in an E. Our base verb, inquire, ends in a voiced R sound. So our past tense ending is just going to make a D sound. It should sound like this: inquired, inquired. Now, there are a few phrasal verbs that we should discuss, and I'll note the most frequent way you see this verb inquire used is in connection to phrasal verbs. So you're going to see some repetition from the definitions we've already discussed, but I wanted to make sure to provide some examples as well. So the first phrasal verb we'll discuss is to inquire about. So many times we're using this to note that someone is asking about something or trying to learn more about something. An example of this might be, I'm going to inquire about this bill, right? So here someone is looking at an invoice. Maybe something looks different. It's unexpected, right? So someone's going to ask the organization or the person who provided this bill to try and learn more to better understand it. A second phrasal verb you might hear is to inquire after. We use this to mean that we're asking about someone's condition. Many times it's used especially in connection to health. An example of this might be, his grandma inquired after you when I saw her at the grocery store. I feel like this happens to me whenever I'm in a small town. My husband's family has lived there many years. Many people know them. And so I will often see someone who asks, how's your husband? How's your mother-in-law? How's your father-in-law? And so they're kind of asking about the condition of these individuals. Another phrasal verb you might hear is to inquire for. Here we're requesting to see or speak to someone, and that usually comes after the for. An example of this might be, if anyone inquires for me, tell them I will be back tomorrow. So we might hear something like this in a workplace where one member is leaving for the day and trying to let people know, if anyone requests or asks, I'm going to have to follow up tomorrow. Fourth phrasal verb we'll discuss is to inquire into. This very much connects to that second definition we talked about earlier, investigating something. An example of this might be, we're inquiring into unfair hiring practices. Right? So this means someone is investigating. They're looking for evidence or proof of this event. The last phrasal verb we'll discuss here is to inquire within. An example, or the meaning, I should say, of this is commonly found on signs, other advertisements, flyers, and generally telling people, giving them instructions that they need to come inside for more information. An example of this might be, the sign says they're hiring and that you can inquire within. So here it would mean, go inside, ask them about jobs, ask them how to apply. Maybe they will have a paper application for you. Now, let's continue using our verb of the day. And today we're going to focus on asking for permission. So I thought quite hard about this. So we've said inquire is generally about asking to do something. So asking for permission to ask might seem a little bit silly, but it can also seem very polite to do in certain situations. And so that's what I thought we would look at today. So there are sort of three different ways we can approach asking for permission. They are with the modals can, could, and may. And so generally, when we ask for permission, we are asking for ourselves, either kind of singularly, so asking for myself, or maybe I'm asking on behalf of a group, so that would be kind of ourselves here. And so our structure with all of these less formal to more formal is going to follow this pattern. We're going to have a modal, so can, could, or may. Then we have our subject, and then the base verb. So I've got a few examples here. Can I inquire about your office's remote work options? This might be a sentence someone uses during a job interview. So if you're the candidate, you're sort of interested in having remote work and it hasn't been discussed and they ask you, do you have any questions, right? This might be kind of a polite way to sort of introduce that topic, right? And so generally, when we answer questions of permission, we can do affirmatively, say, right, yes, you can, sure, of course, is also very common. Sometimes you'll hear, no, you can't. I feel like when you ask for permission from teachers or parents, you might get that negative. You might also hear people say, sorry, but, and then offer a reason. Okay. Another way people ask for permission, again, is with the modal could. I've got another example here. Could I inquire about your home life? I actually had a question like this put to me by a doctor. I was having a checkup recently, and I think this is really wonderful. Doctors do this now, kind of not only just our physical health, our body, right, but asking about our mental and emotional health as well. And so the doctor had some questions and wanted to know if it was okay for her to ask me these things, right? So when she said that, I said, of course, right? Or you could say, go ahead, right? And that sort of gives the person permission to move forward. The most formal way we tend to ask for permission is with the word may, okay? So an example of this, may I inquire about the apartment for rent? Right? So maybe you really want to make a good impression. You call someone after seeing an advertisement online or perhaps a flyer, something like that. And that's sort of a way to signal that you're going to ask several questions about it. Maybe you're going to ask to come see it. So again, the way we answer this stays the same, whether it's our less formal to more formal permission. Okay. Now, I've got a few more examples because we can just make affirmative or negative statements where we give permission to someone else or to a group of people to do something. But in the affirmative and the negative, we can use can or we can use may, but we're not going to use could with permission. Okay, so we'll take a look at a couple examples here. My first less formal affirmative example would be interested parties can inquire about the grant program by visiting this website. Okay, so here we're giving permission to look for more information, to perhaps submit questions through a website. In the negative, you might hear someone say, you can't inquire about someone's religion during a job interview. Right? This might be a reminder our HR department gives to us before we prepare. So you do not have permission to ask about this. In fact, it's against the law. So our more formal examples here, I have, you may inquire about free or low-cost preventative cancer screenings at our offices. We might see a statement like this on a flyer or some other form of advertisement. And then in the negative, you may not inquire about any disabilities during a job interview. So again, something else coming from like an HR department, a hiring manager, reminding us of what we are allowed to ask about. So here in the United States, that is not appropriate. So what I hope you're noticing in these affirmative and negative examples, we always start with our subject, we have our modal, and then if it's negative, we use not, and then the base verb. So we're not using any special endings here with our verb. Now let's spend a moment looking at some words and a phrase related to inquire. The first word we'll discuss is the noun inquirer. Generally, we use this to refer to a person who asks for information. An example of this might be, many inquirers have wanted to know who wrote this opinion piece. Okay. I saw a sentence similar to this on a website after something had been published and it was anonymous, so we didn't know the source. Apparently, many people were contacting and saying, like, oh, I want to know who was behind this. I'll also note you might see inquirer used in various newspaper titles, in the names of newspapers. So again, this idea that they are seeking out information. They're asking people questions and sharing that information. Another related word you might hear is the noun inquiry. This is the act of asking for information or the act of investigating. An example of this, he was ordered to testify in the grand jury's inquiry. So this is sort of part of the legal process in the United States before charges are brought in certain circumstances and situations. Their information, evidence will be presented to a group to decide, is there enough to sort of proceed with further hearings with a trial. Another related word is the adverb inquiringly. So many times when this is being used, we're describing an action that is being done in a way that shows you want to know more information. I feel like I've seen this often in stories, literature, kind of helping paint a picture of how a particular character is acting or behaving. An example of this. The little girls were peeking inquiringly around the corner, right? So peeking is kind of a quick or short glance. So they're wanting maybe to see something that's going on, right? And kind of looking around the corner. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is a phrase or an expression. And the expression is inquiring minds want to know. And so many times this is introduced to note that people are curious. People want some type of secret to be shared. So kind of a silly example I have here is that inquiring minds want to know what ingredients you use in your chili, right? So very common fall food here in the United States. Many people have recipes they try and keep secret, right? So that no one copies or no one is able to produce something as good as theirs. But you might hear people say like, oh, I really want you to share that secret recipe. Thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any verbs that are sort of on your mind that you want to inquire about, I'd love for you to leave a comment. Let me know what that verb is, and I'll see if I can make a video for you in the future. Thanks for watching this one. I hope you have a great day.